Hi, welcome. This is Cadillac Conversations. We do these on Thursday nights from the caddyinfo.com forum. I have with me Cadillac Jim.
Howdy.
We're missing Texas Jim tonight and wish him well. But he won't be able to be on with us. If you want to be on with us, then the way you could do that is let me know on Google Plus that that's what you want to do, and circle me so that I can find you is the easiest way to do it on Google Plus. And then you can find the event if you go to the caddyinfo.com forum, CADDYINFO.com, or if you let me know if you're watching on YouTube or on Google Plus, then the easy way is let me know right there. But if you're watching some other way, then well, that's odd. I was trying to get the video pasted into the forum and it misbehaved. Okay, so that's got it. So if you follow this thread in the forum for this week's discussion, or actually last week's discussion, which has been delayed to this week, then you can find us here and find the event page and find the conversation and circle me on Google Plus and let me know that you want to participate, and we'll figure out a way. And then as long as you're a good participant, then we'll leave you on. And as soon as you're not a good participant, then we'll invite you to spend your evening doing something else. We had a few topics from last week that we didn't get a chance to talk through, and so let me iterate those again. The 2016 ATS, we know the ATS-V is coming, but the 2016 the normal ATS is getting the 8-speed transmission finally, and I say finally because I feel that bringing the ATS out with the 6-speed transmission caused it to not do as well on the first buff book test, which caused the sales not to be as good as expected, which was a contributor to the sales not being as good as expected. And so I'm excited that the ATS is getting the new LGX V6 for 335 horsepower and the new GM 8-speed transmission. So, Jim, do you think I'm over focusing on minutia here, or do you think that's going to make a difference in the ATS?
No, I think what's going to make a difference is when this new configuration gets into the road test. The problem is that magazines like Road and Track tend to test once, and then it's hard to get them to retest. Some will, I think this is major, and I think they'll have a very good chance, but there's a possibility they won't. But it's the road test figures that will have the immediate response. Over a period of time, experience on the road will show. But that's 10% of the effect of having good numbers on a car and driver test.
Yes, yeah, I think that of course, the ATS weighs a little bit less than the 3 Series. The engine puts out a little more horsepower than the 3 Series, and yet the test results were worse. And so I'm guessing that 6-speed transmission, and of course the BMWs have an 8-speed transmission, that 6-speed transmission was the missing link there.
Yeah, those gears are a little far apart, the first 3 gears.
The CTS, the current generation CTS has come with the 8-speed right along. That when they brought the V Sport out, it had the 8-speed, and the regular CTS kept the 8-speed all the way across the line. At first, we thought maybe the 2-liter turbo and the V6 were going to get the 6-speed, but the twin turbo was going to get the V8, the 8-speed. But then the whole line got the 8-speed. And of course, the new CTS-V will have the 8-speed automatic as well, the heavy-duty 8-speed automatic.
It may be a different 8-speed. It may not have been ready for the smaller car. I mean,
well,
they could lower the weight and decrease the cost by focusing on this platform.
Excellent point, because it is exactly a different 8-speed. Yeah. The 8-speed that they used in the V Sport was a Lexus 8-speed. That they, so that they had bought that on the car part shelf, so to speak, and the new 8-speed is going to be the GM 8-speed that we've been waiting for. That's the same one that's used in the new C7 Corvette, and is going to be used in the CTS-V is the one that's in now going to be used across the ATS line and the CTS line. Now, it's not exactly the same one because the ATS uses, the light car version, the light duty version, whereas the CTS-V and the Corvette use the heavy duty version.
Of course.
So not exactly, every ounce. They famously say every ounce had to earn its way. Every 0.0022 pounds had to earn their way onto the ATS in order to. Another interesting tidbit in the news today, though, was that Cadillac thinks that more V-Series choices are an important component of upcoming cars.
I agree.
A
lot of Cadillac people want chocolate. They don't want vanilla. They're after something special in a Cadillac. They're not after just something that looks like a Cadillac and they can show their friends. They want a driving experience and an ownership experience that is special.
Yes.
I know I certainly do. I don't care what the car looks like. I'm very pleased that my car is relatively inconspicuous, and very few people have a clue what it is, including a new CTS coupe that I was alongside or nearby most of the drive home today for almost an hour. You never had a clue he was that mine was a V.
Now, an interesting news tidbit. We knew the CTS-V, the new 640 horsepower 2016 CTS-V, the third generation was, and technically the fourth generation, but the first and the second was that change from the LS6 to the LS2, and then there was the LSA, and now the LT4 engine car. But the new one is over at the Nürburgring and apparently is taking some of the track home with it.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, or vice versa. Or vice versa. They managed to have some incursion into the wall. Let me see if I can get this. We'll get the screenshot up from Auto Guide. So I'll do screen share, full screen, start screen show. And now tell me if you can see that image, and I'll try and blow it up.
Yeah.
I'm going to zoom in on my screen.
Okay.
So they apparently hit up front and then scraped along the wall is what it looks like.
Yeah. A serious whoopsie doozy there.
Well, hopefully no one was hurt, and it looks like they were not.
No.
That they just did a bit here, and unfortunately,
I didn't know they had white taillights on the left side.
Well, didn't originally.
Oh,
the red capping is missing from the taillight.
Boy, I bet it really hurt that wall.
Now, unfortunately, this is not something you'd be able to send back home and say, just send me over a few new parts, right?
No, that's 3/4.
Because the car's not done yet. The car's not on the market yet.
No, they could probably use, regular parts. I doubt the sheet metal is different. The trim,
no, they do a lot of V special stuff. And I bet that all the front end components are different.
Well, I think they're really going to have to replace that rearview mirror because they sort of need that.
Well, now you can see the left rear wheel from the mirror.
Yeah, and it looks like there's something wrong with the left front wheel too, although that could be just brake dust.
Yeah, just up a little bit. This is one of the things that they had said is they're going with these 10-spoke wheels, and I'm not sure I approve.
Well, there's a engineering problem with the wheels on the V series. They have minimum diameter and huge brakes.
Yes.
And they have to clear the brakes, and so the wheels are the cantilever strength of those spokes and preventing the distortion of line, the load carrying or bearing capacity of the huge rim width is makes it a very difficult problem. That's why they want your old wheel back if you replace your wheel. And they'll give you $50 for your old wheel back because those are not your father's aluminum wheels.
So we'll see what they end up doing there, or if
Yeah.
we get to hear times.
Mhm.
One of the points the factory made was they're there to actually test the car and to do different settings. If they happen to get a lap time, then that would be a bonus.
Well, I think we're going to need to wait on that because I think it's been delayed at least a month by this little whoopsie. They may get some more practice, but they're not going to have a time to run till they can take pictures. These pictures, are not the kind of thing they're going to want to be showing on network TV.
Yeah. Now, if they feel so bad about it that they want to sell that car right away, please contact me at caddyinfo.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I can buff that right out.
Yeah. PM Cadillac Jim.
Yeah, yeah. Let me know right away,
Yeah.
and we'll get that fixed.
Dentless repair will suck those dents right out there. Yeah.
Take it up to Carroll Cadillac, and he can sort that out for me.
Yeah.
And repaint it.
Yeah. Cadillac Jim. Remember that, Cadillac Jim.
Now the Cadillac officially took $9,000 off the price of the ELR. Do you think that will make a big difference in sales? That we'll see sales jump from 100 a month up to 250 a month?
I don't know if it'll make a factor 2.5 to 1, but it should make a big difference.
What confuses me here is so the ELRs were actually going out the door, and of course this is the new 2016 ELR, so they have made some changes. The previous ELRs were going out the door for closer to $50,000, is my understanding, is because of the low sales, and they had a year of them on the lot that you could get them discounted from the $70,000 close to $50,000. Now, I actually think that when people would do their math, that what they were actually counting in was the tax refund of $7,500, right? And so they were going for closer to $60,000 before, perhaps, and not. Now the 0 to 60 time, they brought down the 0 to 60 time, and they added a few miles of range. So how big a factor do you think those are for the buyer, for an ELR buyer?
I think it's important because if they hadn't done something important like that, they would have said, "Well, it's the same car as last year." This is solid proof that it's really a model change, and if they have somebody that bought one down the block or at work, they are not going to get, "Well, you just bought last year's model. I don't care what they say on the title."
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
So doing something to make it a new model is important.
Now, with the 16s coming, if you have 300-day supply of the 15s, what kind of prices are we going to see on those? And would it be worth the difference to you? So let's say the 16's going to sell, the 16s are coming out and they're going to be $65,000. The 15 you could get for $15,000 less. Just for argument's sake, let's say you could get a 15 for 50. Would that be a big attracting for you? Would you rather have the new version and 0 to 60 in 1.5 seconds quicker?
Oh, wow, yes.
A little more range, or would you rather have $15,000?
If it's 1.5 seconds quicker, 0 to 60, I wouldn't even look at the other one.
So how much are they going to have to discount the 15s now that they have the 16s coming?
Enough until I can afford one.
Just keep discounting it until Jim
you meet my threshold.
Yeah, and then while you're dropping off the wrecked CTSV that you can't use for testing anymore, then bring the ELR over.
Yeah.
And now, would your wife drive that? Do you think, the ELR?
Oh yeah, she hates big cars. Is not real secure with them.
Perfect.
And she doesn't like maintenance, and this is almost zero maintenance. Easy to see close to the car, see out of, get in and out of. Big old 2-door. Should love it. Yeah, absolutely. Both of us drive 2-doors.
Yeah, you get the
well,
240.
I used to have a 2-door. Mine's a 4-door now.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a choice this time. I just took the resume on this car was such that I accepted the 4 doors. It's the only thing that really I didn't want on the thing. I was happy with everything else. I like that not so flashy thunder gray paint job, although it is kind of stunning if you see it in the bright sun, really clean. But I am just as happy that to trundle anonymously along until somebody spots that egg crate grill, or sorry, expanded steel grill. Then they know. And most of those people grin and wave, and some take pictures. So.
Yeah, they're saying the new battery of the ELR is capable of 373 pound-feet of instant torque. And so for short periods of time to boost acceleration, it can really pour on a lot of torque. 373 pound-feet is is 100 pound-feet more than the V6 puts out. And so the 0 to 60 time drops to 6.4 seconds, which is significant.
About the same as the 90s STS.
Yes.
Before they made the platform heavier. Like
with the V8,
yeah, the VIN 9 V8, the 96 model, 97 model, 98 they got slower because the platform got heavier.
Now, do you think though that with the resurgence of the CT6 and the classic big Cadillac, do you think that Cadillac is recognizing that the subcompact Cadillac was a mistake?
What do you mean by subcompact? Which one are you talking about?
The ELR is a subcompact.
Oh, I see. No, I don't think so. I think that we're just seeing a little breadth in Cadillac, like the XTS. And,
I agree with that answer. I think it's different horses for different courses, right?
Yeah.
That you offer. My mom, for example, would have been happy with an ELR, I think, because at the point in her life where she didn't need to have a big car to carry kids around and so on, and she was looking for a more economic car. Mm-hmm. And she had bought a Cimarron at the time and liked it as much bad press as a Cimarron gets. She liked it just fine.
It is a pretty good car. It just wasn't a Cadillac to the bone. I mean, it just.
Well, classic GM, right, is they got it fixed just fine by the end, but they hated it so much by then that they dropped it.
The Fiero was the one that hurts a lot worse than the Cimarron. Yeah. The Fiero was a fantastic car. Just as they got it really right, they dropped it. They could have made a body change and come out with a bunch of fanfare and sold them, but they just looked at the declining sales and said, to hell with it.
Right. And how much more money can I make if I can make 3 more pickup trucks?
Right. For the amount of money they were making those things. Yeah. Yeah. That's what happens when you have a publicly traded corporation and you have a bunch of business people on the board. You have to have a company that's run by car people, and GM has done a good job of protecting a lot of management from that culture, but it has hurt them, particularly during the Roger Smith years. The badge engineering years, the late 70s to the early 90s, or through the 80s. But they flatlined Cadillac, But you know about that. That's the Cimarron was part of that process.
Well, they made a lot of bad choices along the way, and that was the bad old GM, not the new GM, right?
Right. Well, GM had by the late 80s, they had sort of come out of it, and the car people came out of the woodwork when they could. They were still there or somewhere.
Yes, somewhere nearby.
Well, the Quad 4 HO became people may argue with me on this, but the Quad 4 Quad 4, not the HO version, but and the first North Stars were so similar in mechanical design that you can't tell me that they didn't basically work with the Oldsmobile engine shop for the fundamentals of that V8. The biggest single difference is that cam chain was single stage on the Quad 4 and it's dual stage on the North Star. But they have almost the same bore and stroke. The North Star is a slightly bigger bore, same stroke. Head looks a lot the same,
right.
From the bottom, it's very, very similar. They made some improvements for the purpose of the Cadillac, but it was so similar that the design was really there. And furthermore, they could have gone to 80 horsepower per liter by going to the HO, but that engine was flat to about half redline, and you don't want to put that on an automatic transmission because you can't, it becomes uncontrollable. The throttle response is unpredictable in an auto.
Now, part of the Cadillac mystique in the new generation is going to be bespoke engines. We're going to have engines that are Cadillac specific, The new LGW is probably the first one, the 3-liter twin turbo version of the LGX. That's going into the new CT6. It's going to be the I think probably the CT6 was not intended. CT6 is actually getting the 2-liter turbo, which I think was intended for the Chinese market only. It's getting the LGX, the 3.6, the new 3.6 liter, and it's getting the LGW, which is the 3-liter twin turbo. And we know later it will get the V8, the 4.5 liter twin turbo V8 when it's available. I suspect that it was intended to have the 3-liter twin turbo, which is a bespoke Cadillac engine, they've said. So the rest of the GM line's not getting that one. The new 4.5 liter V8, which is a bespoke Cadillac engine, the rest of the line won't get that one. And I think that they still have in their back pocket a desire to make a V12.
Why the hell not?
The V12 would be 2 of the LGX engines mated together.
Conceptually, yeah.
Now, so let me ask you that. How important is that to you? There was a big furor back in the day when people realized that underneath the hood of their Buick might be a Pontiac engine, or underneath the hood of their Pontiac might be a Chevrolet engine, and people were aghast. That it was a really big deal.
Well, through the 70s, all GM divisions had their own blocks.
Right. Even for similar engines, right?
But during the Roger Smith years, they just picked 1 or 2 motors and put them in everything. And
which almost every manufacturer does. I mean, not just GM.
Chrysler, even the Chrysler Hemis, they had a different block for DeSoto, Plymouth, Dodge, Chrysler. They were all different blocks.
But you can find a BMW engine in a Maybach. You can find the BMW engine in a Morgan, for goodness sake. They'll put it anywhere they can stick it. And so does that make BMW less exclusive?
Yeah. But but people buy BMW for the skin and that 62 Pontiac grill.
So let's talk about the ATS-V as an example. So the ATS-V isn't going to have a bespoke engine because the LF4 that's going into the twin turbo 3.6 liter V6, 464 horsepower, that's going into the ATS-V, 2016 ATS-V, not bespoke to Cadillac, but let me use that as an example. Would you rather have the twin turbo V6, or would you rather have had the V8 with the same horsepower?
I'd rather have had the V8.
The LT1. The LT1 puts out 460 horsepower without supercharging.
The reason I'd rather have the V8 is because for the same horsepower, the larger displacement will give you a better driving experience for spirited driving. It's like the old saw. Now, pardon me, I age showing again, between the small block and the big block Corvette. Except for the very high end of the performance, a fuel-injected 327 would match a 427 carbureted. The 427 had more horsepower, but they could go around a road race course with a 30-second lap time that'd be only a second or 2 different. But you put a microphone in that small block, and you hear it go. It always between 6,000 and 7,000 RPM. The big block goes between 4 and 5, and it'll almost put you to sleep after GoPro in the small block doing exactly the same thing. It would seem. Of course, they drive differently. They're better at different parts of the course, and this, but the V8 is just going to give you a better driving experience.
Now, I will say, even with the CTS-V reviews or the Escalade reviews, the Escalade has a tremendous state-of-the-art engine in it. It's got, it is a overhead valve engine, certainly, but it has fuel deactivation. It has, direct injection. It has the latest technologies, right?
Right.
And, of course, the magazine reviewers, the first thing they say is, well, it's just an old, small block, lump of a small block Chevy engine, so you can't expect any sophistication from it. which is the opposite of what I just said.
Well,
But
you're not going to see that in Car and Driver. You might see that in some of the others, and particularly in the European, apologists. But in point of fact, you're not going to see it in a knowledgeable article because it's just
well,
too
this was in
embarrassing
one
to
of the
be
buff
just.
books.
What's that?
This was in one of the buff books, but
Well,
the
then whoever that said that is going to be howled at by the knowledgeable people for years because he put that in print when any fool knew better if they cared enough to know what they were writing about. Yeah, you just don't put something like that in print without researching it. And if they wanted, of course, there are people that don't care if they're that type. Well, then their readership is its own reward.
so Cadillac's going to bespoke engines. I guess my concern has been when we share an engine with the Corvette or when we share an engine with performance cars in the form of the V8, then we get their aftermarket parts. So suddenly there are many tuner options for Cadillacs. When Cadillac has bespoke engines, we don't got that.
Well, this is the first time they've done that, through and through. The LSA was not the same as the supercharged Corvette with the LS. With
Right.
the LT, apparently, it is, although I would want to look at the part numbers to know for sure.
Well, the LT4 probably has different packaging in the CTSV. We don't know enough about the CTSV yet. And you're right, it may even just cause a slight number difference. But most of the performance parts between the LSA and the LS9 were similar.
Yes, but the superchargers were different. And
the
the heads
superchargers were different.
And the cams were different.
And the intercooler was different, but point back though, you could take LS9 parts and add them to the LSA and zip it up.
Yeah, one of the things I would want to do first is get an LS9 intercooler, the thing in front of the radiator part, because that's going to give me colder water into the input of my intercooler. And that translates into ETs because it's going to make a lower horsepower group as engine heats during acceleration.
So,
yeah, give me that.
I was still wanting to make the argument against bespoke engines, and what I'm trying to coach myself is, no, Cadillac's going to bespoke engines, so how can we enjoy that?
Well, it's so difficult to do much with those and still have a streetable car that I would say let the good times roll. The chip tuners and the more sophisticated people will eventually come out with what's possible through Summit Racing. The fact that they don't have a high volume market will make that take longer, and they'll be more expensive. But what can be done is still out there. We never found much for the North Star, and it turned out the real problem was the crossover tube. That limited the horsepower. There wasn't much point in doing anything else. But for the transverse engine North Stars at any rate. So
and so the key in my mind, I guess, is that when we get the 4.5 liter V8, it's got to have so much performance in that package that there's no need to tune it.
Well, I think that'll hold you for a year, and after the end of the year, if there is any low hanging fruit, you'll find it on Summit Racing and similar outfits.
Yeah, there will still be some aftermarket for Cadillacs, but and to be fair, there are LSA Cadillacs like yours all over the place in the aftermarket, and certainly I can go get one of those if that's what's the most important to me.
Yeah.
But how much does that add to the exclusivity of Cadillacs, though, to have bespoke engines?
I think it's a major thing. I think one of the big problems during the 80s was the only bespoke engine was the 41 HTC, and that engine turned out to be the wrong engine for what people wanted for the car, and it was certainly not a very good follow-on for the 368. So they had to go with the Buick V6s, the 3.8 liter V6, and thus and so. But they still had specially built small block Chevrolets and LT1s and the Fleetwoods and the commercial chassis cars. So I would say that it's very important because Cadillac lost a lot of their panache when you were buying them with Buick and V6s, Oldsmobile diesels, and Chevrolet V8s. Although there are a lot of people proud of that so-called Corvette engine they got in their mid-90s Fleetwoods. It was not. It was a Cadillac engine. It's just like saying, well, the Escalade has a Chevrolet engine because it's an LS. Well, it might be the same, basic block casting, but it's still a Cadillac motor. Try looking at the part. Now, try buying a head across the counter, and they pull the VIN. They'll say, "We'll have to get that from the Cadillac dealer because the parts are different."
But the LT1 engine and the Fleetwoods could share a lot of performance parts with the LT1s and the Camaro at the time and the Corvette at the time and so on.
Well, I think that's probably a good idea because you can get comp cams make some excellent streetable invisible mods that even your wife won't know about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how important do you think Cadillac coming with a V12 is?
I think this would be major, and I think that they ought to come out with it in a $90,000 car. That's a stretched platform for the CT6, and they the V12, the so-called Jaguar V12. I don't know who sells it, but that V12 appears all over the map in Jaguars, BMWs, and Bentleys. It's that same basic motor. General Motors had a chance to build one, but they got crossways with the numbers in the early 2000s, never followed up with that prototype. The CM was just a proof of principle. They would never produce that same motor, I don't think. I think that it was easy to build in the shop, but not a good idea for production. Split V6s are a pain.
Now,
in a truck motor, maybe so, but in a long warranty, high revving car engine, no.
How would you space those so that it makes sense in the market? For example, one of the problems we have now is that the 2-liter turbo and the V6 make, the 3.6-liter V6 make almost exactly the same horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
The 2-liter turbo makes 272 and the 3-liter makes 321. But point of fact, if you look at their torque curves, mm-hmm. it only makes more power above 5,000 RPM.
Well, in the 50s, the small block Chevrolet and the 6-cylinder, that old cold water 5-main bearing 6, had the same torque curve, and particularly when adjusted through the final drive ratios in the transmission, and they drove exactly the same unless you wound them up. Did you know that? And so I think that they're shooting for the same thing here. The cars will drive very much the same, except for the most spirited drivers who will appreciate the higher horsepower of the V6. But in point of fact, they're intended to drive well and have good throttle response and respond to moderately spirited driving in pretty much the same way.
But I am no stranger to conjecture on things I had known nothing about, and already we know nothing. We know very little about the upcoming 3-liter twin turbo, the LGW, mm-hmm. except that it makes around 400 horsepower. So
we dropped the V12. Let me say one thing about the V12.
No, I'm coming back to it.
Base it. Okay, I'll wait for you.
I'm coming back to it. So let's say the 3-liter twin turbo, the twin turbo V6 makes 400 horsepower. The twin turbo V8 comes to market with 500 horsepower, and the V12 comes to market with 600 horsepower. Will that be enough of a differentiator?
Well, I don't think that the V12 is going to be considered in the same breath or by the same people or as a step so much as an entirely different car.
Oh, I agree with that marketing approach, is stop trying to put every engine in every Cadillac, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely agree with that. I think the CT6 coming with the 5 different engines that we know of now is, that's not the way I would have brought it out. I would have brought it out with only the twin turbo 3-liter got all my initial tests only with the twin turbo 3-liter,
Mm-hmm.
and then brought other engines.
Ford once made their 24 valve SHO V6 available in the Fiesta, and they had significant safety issues with that car, so they only sold about 80 of them. About 65 of them were found upside down the road within a week, or some of them rolling down the street.
Yeah.
End over end, or they did not do well, but they sold enough of them to homologate them for some kind of dingbat racing they did with them.
Perfect.
But so I don't think that you ought to be offering that V12 and chassis that cannot be tuned to make a well-rounded high-performance car.
So in the future,
600, if you're going to be doing performance tuning with that V12, 600 horsepower is going to be the low end. That you can get that normally aspirated out of a 6-liter V12 easily.
Now the CT8, what would you make those the two engines? Offer the 4.5-liter twin turbo V8 or a V12, or would you make it V12 only?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that, but it makes sense to offer the V8 so that the V12 you'd sell some, and the V12 would have an air of exclusivity with that same platform.
Yeah, the car numbering, the car name makes it ironic that the CT8 would be the only Cadillac that doesn't come with a V8, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got that problem. I might be willing to call it a CT12 with the V12.
Well, let the marketeers play around. Let's just hope they're not smoking the same thing some of the others I've seen lately.
Start over on the numbering altogether.
Well, there's another thing. I see ads for these Kia Sportages, what I call the hamster cars, because they use hamsters in their ad. They appeal to young people as a cool car to go cruising in, because it's not really, it's basically just a funny looking grocery getter, telephone booth grocery getter, the new faddish square boxy type. I think Skion, Toyota's oddball brand, Skion, is a similar looking car, but
I think it's Scion.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, with that one. But in point of fact, I think that they need to decide what they're going to do with it, but they need to look. One of the problems that Cadillac has, and maybe I'm just taking it from these talks, but they focus on customers of other cars. This is to me not rational at all, because if you look at people that have brand loyalty to a particular make, you're not looking at likely customers for your car. If you take another demographic, people who are going to switch brands from one car to another, from the Lexus or your Infiniti or your BMW or your Mercedes or your Cadillac. Look at people who are going to switch brand and start figuring out why and what they're looking for. And then you might learn something that can help you sell cars. But if you take any of these makes, all of these makes have high brand loyalty. And if you take any of these and start looking at their customer bases, you're unlikely to learn anything that's going to be very successful in helping you design either a marketing campaign or a feature set or a model. So the spec.
Well, and the head of Cadillac did say during one of the interviews last week is that recently Cadillac has been talking a lot about, trying to out-German the Germans. And he said that's a failed strategy, that Cadillac's never going to be a German car company, but they can out-American the Germans, and that they need to concentrate on that.
Oh, they did that for many, many years until the 80s, and they had just unbelievable success. And in the 90s, they had a flash of success, then they rested on the laurels for 10 years.
Right.
Except for the CTS, which has turned out to be the bread and butter, because they rested on the laurels too long with the other models. Like, where's the STS? If they'd had 2 or 3 model updates from 2000, the STS would still be a mainline car.
Well, don't tell anybody, but the current CTS is actually the STS, and the current ATS is the CTS. It's just that Cadillac tried to redefine CTS to mean STS.
It became a bigger car, filled a niche, yeah.
Yep. But the new CTS is close to the size of the previous STS, and they would have been better off they've confused people by changing the CTS upmarket and bringing the ATS in,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Oh, people
caused
do that.
a crash.
They all do that.
Yeah.
All the makes, foreign and domestic. I hate it myself, but they do.
So if the CT3, let's talk about the CT3 and the CT5. So before we had said with the CT3, you could rename the next ATS the CT3, and you could rename the next CTS the CT5. But Cadillac has said there will be no numerical replacement for an ATS, and there will be no numerical replacement for a CTS.
It would lose its identity as a model if they did that.
That the CT3 will not be an ATS.
They'd lose their brand, their model and brand loyalty, and they would just lose their identity.
Yeah, no, but that's definitely what they're doing. The future car will be a CT3 or a CT2. Now, so that's my question for you is, what else is different about a CT3? A CT3 would logically be almost exactly the same size as an ATS, but it's not. But it's not a replacement for an ATS. So, what else will be unique about that? Do you think that makes it not an ATS?
3 wheels.
I like 3-wheelers. Thank you very much. And a roadster top, but I want I want roll-up window technology. I'm not buying another car.
Roll-up windows with a little electric stepping motor on it. Yeah, operated by a computer.
I posted that video of the Morgan Century Roadster.
Yeah.
That on the forums, and I love that car. I love everything about that car, except it doesn't have roll-up windows, and I can't have a car without roll-up windows. Thank you very much. So it has side curtains, and I'm not buying side curtains. That you can't park it anywhere. You can't see out of it if you have to put them on. And so no. Now, I loved the quote during that video, however, which was, if the weather you're driving in doesn't have a name, no need to put the top up.
If the weather you're driving in does not have a name.
Right. If they haven't named it Hurricane Denise, or if the weather you're driving in doesn't have a name, then it's top down weather.
That's as long as you're moving, you might be able to get away with that. If you're standing still, you're going to need umbrellas.
Now, I have thought about that, is how many times you're going to be parked beside the road. Now, here's the
commuting lately.
Here's the Bruce update, because I have a lot of trouble thinking about the XLR, the convertible, the 2-seat convertible, because I keep the XLR in the back of my mind as that would be a fun car to have around.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Mike's telling me he has a webcam and headphones now, but he can't get started here. So, Mike, here's what's going to happen is I'm going to send the invitation again. I'm going to send the invitation again, and hopefully you'll see it up by the little bell on your Google Plus page. This is delayed about 4 seconds, so you won't hear this until 4 seconds from now. But
if you get Bruce in one of your circles and you look at Hangouts, then there's a section that says any of your friends that are having a Hangout, bingo, and they'll have a join button because Bruce is inviting you.
Yes, exactly that. The other thing you can do is we have the Q&A up. Well, you're doing Q&A. Let me see what else you can do. So I've sent you the invitation. So if you get to the event page, if you go to the Caddy Info forum in today's chat, there's a link to the event page in addition to the video. Go to the event page. You should see a button there that says join. And when you push that button, it will start the Hangout program and try and get you into the conversation.
A couple of clicks and you're in.
So I also love the look of the BMW Z4, and I often review the BMW. And Jim's son had just bought a Z4, but I like that little BMW Z4 Roadster. I like the look of it. So here's my quiz question for you for the evening: how much more does an XLR weigh than a BMW Z4?
I would say 600 pounds.
It's right at two to 400 pounds, depending on the options. They're actually much closer than you might think, right? The Z4 is a little roadster of a car, and the XLR, is a hardtop convertible with a V8, and seems like a much more substantial. But because it's built on that Corvette platform, right? It's a heavy Corvette convertible as opposed to being a really heavy car.
Well, the Corvette, they do what they can to keep it from being any heavier than it has to be for its performance requirements. It's not really like so the Mitsubishi has a two-seater, I forget the name of it, that is similar in size to a Corvette. They run it with a turbo V6, and it's heavier than the Corvette. What do you remember the one I'm talking about? Mitsubishi Mirage or something?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's 400 pounds heavier than a Corvette. This came out in the 90s, and they're still selling those guys. And they're good cars. It's just that I have no idea why I would ever go buy a car similar in size to a Corvette that weighs 400 or 500 pounds more with a V6 in it.
Now, Mike, on the Cadillac Conversation, on the thread, on the topic on the forum about tonight's chat, when you get to the very last topic where I posted the video, above the video it says event page, and then there's a link there. And if you go to that event page, one of the buttons on the video, I think it's a button on the video, will say join. And if you click that, then it will start the Google Plus and start pulling you into the conversation. And so if you have other questions, please, or if it's doing something you don't expect, then keep texting me here, or text me on the forums, or text me on Google Plus, and we'll try and get you engaged somehow.
Be sure you're presentable for live international television. That's rule one is wear clothes. Rule two is watch your language.
Well, we can.
I'm kidding.
We can work with that.
Yeah, we do these things.
But Mike, if I can tell you something else, then
hello.
Oh, yay!
Hi, Mike.
Well, we see you've joined. I think your Google Plus is probably loading.
Yes, it is. He's already done all the hoops. It's just the software linking up now.
So your video camera is not on yet. You can do some video adjustment if you put your mouse at the top of the screen. Then a little video thing will come down in Google Plus. If you put your mouse over to the left of the screen, you can click the chat button, and you can actually chat with us.
Chat button's the top.
I'm going to put in hi there. But you won't see the buttons until you put your mouse over to the left side of the screen. Up at the top of the screen, if you put your mouse to the top of the screen, there are camera controls. And so you can tell the program that it's okay to use your camera, and it's okay to use your microphone for your headset and so on, which you may not have done. Because we see you, but we don't see your video. We just see a placeholder for you yet. And so if you want to chat with us so that you can tell us what's happening on your end, then put your mouse over on the left side of the screen and click the top icon which says chat, and that'll open a dialog over on the right side of your screen. If you want to adjust your video, put the mouse at the top of the screen, and you can there's a gear icon there called settings, and that will let you choose which camera should it use, which microphone should it use, which speaker play over so that you can hear it, and so on. So we'll stop staring at you while you jiggle your gear. But if there's something we can do to help you, you're halfway there now that you found the Hangout. Now it also may be waiting for you to say yes to, is it okay for it to download some software to your machine? So look for that dialog too. Every time Jim starts the Hangout, it asks him something or other.
Yeah, then it gives a blank screen for the big picture until it comes back and says, "Oh, application failed to download because there was a problem with it," and then everything's all right.
Mike asks, does he need to allow it? You need to allow the camera? Then Yeah, so what I do is I choose the settings at the top, and then I pick out which camera I want it to use using those things. But yeah, the first time, and we all had the same thing. The first time you do Google Hangouts, then it takes a little jiggling. And in fact, matter of fact, every Thursday when we're doing this discussion, we actually log in 15 minutes early so that we can jiggle our cameras and arrange things and get all the gadgets to work. Because Google Plus keeps evolving, and every time we use it, something's a little different in here, and so we kind of have to poke around and see what's gone different this time. So, Mike, we still see you there. We can do text chat with you, which is good. I think you have to tell it, yes, please, it can use the camera, and you have to tell it which camera to use. The way you get the settings dialog is put your mouse toward the top of the video screen, and there's a gear there. Camera's gray and not available. It could be that there's a application using your camera. That could be a reason that if you have something else using the camera. It could be that you have a Windows dialog that's still asking you, will you get permission to use the camera? It could be that you don't have a camera that works with Google Hangouts, but probably you do. If it works with your software, it probably works with Google Hangouts. And Google will work with a wide variety of cameras, even camera phones and so on. But I've done Hangouts before with my phone with Jim hosting. Now, if you can get your mic to work, you can actually talk, and we'd be able to hear you, even if your camera is not working. But of course, if your mic is the mic on your camera, then getting one to work may involve getting the other to work. From here, you are all systems go. You're not muted, and your video is okay. You know, your video is enabled.
There he is.
Yay!
We see you. We don't hear you. Yeah, your microphone isn't turned on. You need to select your mic. Oops, he turned his video off.
We lost him.
Hey.
The other thing I'm bad about is that sometimes I put the boom up by my head instead of down by my mouth.
Your sound is turned off or is disconnected.
Right.
Look on the top of the screen and see. Look at the microphone is on the top. If it's got a bar across it, it might be muted. Click on that and see if you can unmute. See if it's muted.
On our end, it looks like you have muted the mic on your end. So we're getting a little icon. Let me see if I can focus on your screen. You're doing good, Mike. Don't be frustrated.
If it's red, it's muted. If it's not red, it's not muted. I just tried mine.
So we see you, so that's good. We think that you have muted the mic on your end is what we think has happened. Because we were getting, go ahead and speak.
Mike, say something, please. Are you there? I don't think he can hear us either.
Can you hear me?
Oh, he's speaking because the mic symbol came up.
Yeah, now he's muted again. So he was unmuted. Now you're unmuted. Now you're unmuted. So speak.
Okay, the level may be wrong. See if you can turn the volume up on your system sound. Find the speaker at the bottom of your screen on the Windows taskbar, and click Volume Control Options or Open Volume Mixer.
You actually right-click on the speaker on the right and the lower right. You right-click on it and choose Recording Devices, and then go to the properties for the recording device that you're using. In my case, it's the microphone, and then highlight Microphone and choose Properties, and then go to Advanced Levels. Sorry, you can choose Levels, and then set the level of the microphone. You're going to know everything about Windows and Hangouts. Can you hear us, Mike? Nod your head if you can hear us.
I guess that tells it all.
No. Oh, he says he can hear you over in the chat.
Oh, good.
So the good news is we can see you. Now, for those of you playing at home, this is the first time we've ever seen Mike. So we're studying him closely to see just kind of what he looks like in person. We chat with him on the forums, of course. Mike participates on Caddy Info as Air Mike. And
Ah. Hi, Air Mike. How are you?
now I still think go back up to settings at the top of the screen, and do you have the microphone that you're wanting to use selected as the microphone? At the top of your screen, when you put your mouse at the top of the screen, there's a dialog there that looks like there's a settings gear, and you can select that gear, and you can actually play a test sound. So you have to hear that, but you can actually choose which microphone you want to use as your microphone. So, for example, mine has 8 different microphones available, for goodness sake. And then I choose the boom on the headset as my microphone. Now, I don't see a boom on your headset. You do have a mic, though, right?
You can check default mic, and then you can control it with the system settings that you get on the Windows taskbar.
He's getting too much help.
I can't help myself.
I hear you. I hear you.
I hear you.
Is it doing anything now?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
So now turn it up another notch. And keep making noises.
Mike?
Mike, can you hear us?
That.
Can you hear us now?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Wow.
Can you hear us?
Okay. Well, if I turn it on my headset, will that turn it up?
Yeah, you had to have the headset turned on.
I think that's just my volume.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, your
Can you
volume's
hear us
okay.
I hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we're good. Okay, now let's talk about Cadillacs.
I hear you.
How much would you pay for a
Somehow,
V12 Cadillac?
It only works on it. Yeah, I hear you. Can you hear me at home? Yes,
Mike, do
I hear
you have the video running in the background? If you have the video still running over on the web page in the background, you may be hearing us twice.
Yeah, echo, echo, echo.
I hear you fine.
Okay, good.
What would you pay for a V12 Cadillac with 650 horsepower?
Yes. Mine's way behind.
Well, just answer the question and don't worry about it. You're on. 600 horsepower V12, 650 horsepower V12.
Yeah, so it still seems like you're hearing a delay, Mike. Are you hearing us in real time now?
I can see the picture in his glasses. Oh, he's still working with the settings.
This is totally normal. The first time you jiggle it, it's getting everything to work right as this is totally expected.
I think I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
You're having trouble hearing us?
How about now?
Great.
Yes.
Any better?
No different on the sound.
You sound good. Can you hear us responding?
Anybody there?
Yeah, we're here. We just you appeared not to be able to hear us.
Well, I admire that he knows which buttons do what on his headset.
Hmm.
I'm really terrible with which buttons do what on my headset. I can't
Okay.
hit them without looking.
My headphone has a little thing in line that has a volume control on it. You might look at that and see if that's a problem, or if you have something like that. You probably have been looking at the volume control on your ear if you have one there.
So, anybody hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I can't hear you anymore.
Well, you did hear us for one point?
I can hear Jim. I just can't hear you. No. Let me put that a different way. I can hear Mike. I can hear Jim, but you can't hear me.
I give up.
Oh, we'll get it.
You can hear me now, but I can't hear you.
Yeah. Well, we can hear you fine.
Is that backwards on your screen, Jim?
No, it's fine.
But yeah, I think you're having some kind of timing delay where you can't hear us in real time, either because you're hearing the video, the sound playing through YouTube, and then that's on a 4-second delay instead of hearing the sound playing through Google Plus. Yes, I can hear you.
Hey, it's working. I hear you.
Oh, good. You hear us.
You know, it could have been just a glitch in Google Plus. That kind of things happen to both Texas Jim and me.
Well, we've wasted a lot of time here, but I'm working.
It is not wasted. This is an investment.
No, you know how to do it. You're locked in. Next time you can come in a second.
Righto.
That's worth a little investment. I don't know how long it took me the first time.
So Mike, Cadillac's going to only bespoke engines. That we're going to have engines in Cadillacs that are only Cadillac unique engines and not used in any other car. How important do you think that is?
I think it's probably a bad thing.
Yeah.
No development from other people, aftermarket, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's what concerns me, is that you're going to not have as much aftermarket. Now, increasingly, the manufacturers are saying, I can't be liable if you're going to jiggle with the engine. If you're going to take Jim's 556 horsepower Cadillac and turn it into a 700 horsepower Cadillac, then I can't be liable for that. Jim shouldn't do that.
Well, they didn't say Jim shouldn't do that. They just said they're not going to pay for any consequences of such performance enhancement, which is reasonable. They've always said that.
And I agree with that too.
Yeah.
That one of the things that one of my favorite sayings from the aftermarket is, be responsible for your own actions.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you go take your engine and take it up to 700 horsepower and blow it up, that's not Cadillac's fault. Don't try and hide it and claim a warranty repair if you've done aftermarket modifications.
Hmm.
Now, if it blows up for reasons not because of your modification, Cadillac should still honor the warranty, though.
Oh, absolutely. And they will. Mine's warranty to 100,000 miles. When they got that supercharger rattle BS,
Right.
I was hoping they'd replace my supercharger, but they didn't. I just got a letter saying that they knew who I was, and my supercharger was guaranteed to. I think it really always was, because it's part of the drivetrain warranty. But I got a letter saying it was. So
I just drove one of those from over at Joplin a while back, and it had a rattle in that supercharger.
Well, that probably meant that somebody had tried dicking with a pulley. But
Well, they spent a lot of time saying that didn't matter. And then it turned out that it kept getting worse and worse, right? That they had a wear component there. And so they ended up going back and saying, yeah, it did matter. But originally the story from engineering was, yeah, there is a wear component there. Yeah, you may hear a little rattle, but no, it doesn't matter.
well, I think that's true when it starts, but it's just going to get worse.
What did you think of the car otherwise, though, Mike?
Well, the car was a pretty nice car and pretty fast and all, but it didn't turn out to be what I was after. I think I stated on the forums before,
Yep.
I wanted a more softer ride. I'm not after a car that'll turn corners, particularly.
Yeah, I remember that. Well, yeah, I think my final summary was to try V Series, which should be a softer ride, and the performance is still going to be more than you can use on the street. So you might be happier with the V Series.
A V Series would be a softer ride? Isn't that what he was testing?
No, he was testing no, there was a V, wasn't it? Oh, sorry, V Sport. I'm sorry, V Sport.
Right. A V Sport's not going to be in my price range at this point, but I might drive one someday when I see it.
Yeah. Well, the V Sport is cheaper than the V Series.
Well,
it's actually a little more expensive.
What?
It's
I
actually
have a couple of years old at least.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the V Sport's a little more expensive than the V Series was last year, right? The new CTSV will probably be more expensive yet.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, by the time you get a V Sport Premium, so they have a V Sport, just the regular V Sport, but then you have to get the premium version to get all the goodies, and that's $10,000 more. And so it's that problem that by the time you get the V Sport Premium, it's $72,000. And so it's actually a bit more than the previous, the current generation CTSV. But the V Sport, the 2014s are coming down into the 40s now, with 10,000, 15,000 miles on them. And so that's still a hard decision to me, is between a CTSV, with less than 20,000 miles, or a CTSV Sport. You can get an 11 or 12V or a 14V Sport. That would be a hard choice, is to get a 12V or the 556 horsepower V8 over a 14V Sport, with the newer electronics, but the 420 horsepower twin turbo 3.6 liter. Especially if the aftermarket tuners are saying just put a tune on it and it becomes a 500 horsepower engine.
There's no V Sports that showed up around where I'm at, so I haven't had a chance to look at one yet.
Well, you got to look nationally, and
yeah, that's what I do. Is I go to cars.com, put in the search, tell it V Sport Premium. Actually, the last search I set up was V or a V Sport with less than 20,000 miles or something. And then based on price, because I was interested to see how did the CTSVs compare with the V Sport in pricing.
Have either of you drove the V Sport, any version of the V Sport?
No.
Oh yeah, I've driven the XTS V Sport, but not the CTS V Sport.
What do you think of its ride versus? Wait, I don't know what your car rides compared to GM's.
So I think what they did with I drive a 2008 STSV, of course, which had the sack struts on it. It doesn't have the magnetic struts, the magnetic shocks and struts like the CTSV, the current generation CTSV does. I would think with those magnetic shocks and struts that car rides well. I've driven a CTSV and I thought it drove well, but I wasn't wanting a luxury car ride. I wanted a sports car ride.
Well, I once did a road trip with somebody who had a Nissan compact with a CVT and a 4-cylinder, and my car has a better ride.
Well, I know what your car rides like because test drove one for the weekend.
Well, actually,
I
you
don't
know what that
Bruce's
car,
runs like.
you know what that car rides like. From what you're telling me, I'm not sure there wasn't something wrong with that car.
Oh, I don't think anything was wrong with it. It drove fine. It rode fine. It just wasn't.
Well, I mean, there's not been something wrong with the suspension, like it might have been stuck with a hard setting on the shocks or something.
Yeah, well, it might have had that.
That's what I'm thinking.
But you could choose between. It has choosable settings, and usually they're default to normal, I think. But then you can choose the track setting, competition mode or sport mode, and so on, and it'll change the response. But I think it defaults to normal touring settings.
Yeah, you turn the key off and let it set for a second, then turn the key back on. It's in touring mode.
So that's as soft as it gets. So if that wasn't the way if that was still too harsh, then I don't think it gets softer than that.
Yeah, it could have been something wrong with it, or the previous owner could have reprogrammed it so it stayed.
Now, which seats did the car you tested have in it, Mike? Did it have the normal seats, the regular standard seats, or the Recaro seats?
I don't know what a Recaro looks like. So I don't know if it has or what.
So if it had the ventilated seats, the Recaro seats are the optional seats in the CTS-V, and some people have complained that the Recaro seats, although they're more sporty and have more adjustments, that they're actually not as comfortable as the standard seats.
They're hard. They don't have padding on.
Right. They're designed to hold you in place on the track.
It may well have had those. I didn't investigate it or read much about it.
Mm-hmm. But you didn't notice whether the seats had padding or not.
So,
no,
Mike,
they did have padding. If they had padding at all, they weren't Recaros.
Hmm.
So, Mike, give us a quick review of your car, of your daily driver.
My daily driver, 99 STS.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worn out, but I love it.
And what do you like the best about it?
Soft, quiet, and soft. The CTS-V was quiet. My XLR is quiet. They're not soft as that car.
Needs shocks and struts. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Now, the logical, even though Texas Jim always frowns at me when I say it, the current upgrade for the 99 SCS would be the XTS, not the CTS. The XTS is, front-wheel drive with the V6 or the twin-turbo V6, and probably is softer than the CTS line. Is intended as was a logical replacement for the front-wheel drive STS. Have you driven it?
Someday.
Yeah, if you like the looks of it, the XTS they're probably not going to replace. It was one and done. But if you like the looks of it, then that's probably closer. Would be look at an XTS Prime Platinum, or especially an XTS Platinum V Sport, which would get you the 410 horsepower twin turbo V6. And that way you'd have all the luxury appointments, the platinum special appointments, and the twin turbo. So that's the XTS I would shop. And I think that's the one I drove back in the day was an XTS Platinum. I'll see if I can link.
They have those turbo. It's a V or V Sport or something.
Yeah, they offer an XTS Platinum without the V Sport, but they also offer an XTS Platinum V Sport. I think I'm telling that story correctly. And so you want to get the V Sport Platinum. Yeah, I tested that in November of 2013, and let me see if I can get the.
Jim, you drove Bruce's car back when you bought yours, correct?
Didn't drive it. I rode in it.
What's the ride in a STS versus a CTS? I never even find an STS-V around this area.
Well, it's got padded seats, and that's going to make a difference in the perception. But if you're saying the CTS had padded seats, that you drove the CTS-V, so that's not going to be different. I mainly noticed the performance and seemed very, very comparable. I think it probably does have a little bit softer ride, but I don't really know that because we rode around mainly on fresh concrete roads, and it's kind of hard to judge the ride if there are no bumps.
Right.
But I didn't have any complaints with it. But then, frankly, I'm not real picky about ride. Uh, I do like a car that turns corners, and I'd give up 100 horsepower if the handling was, handling is to me is everything in a car, almost everything in a car. The horsepower is welcome, and that's what drew me to the CTSV. But the handling is the root of my satisfaction with that car. Like I did not exceed 0.94 G on the way to work this morning, but some days I do.
Now, of course, you may laugh, but the other logical choice there is the Escalade. The Escalade, is going to corner more like an SUV than, but it is you sit up. It's very isolated, and it can be luxurious, especially in the Escalade Platinums.
Yeah, for some reason my wife didn't have any interest in an Escalade.
Some people don't like big cars. They don't like to be way high off the road and not be able to see close in front of them all the way around and stuff. But
yeah, especially if you're shopping for your wife, yeah, I would look at the XTS. And when you got the V Sport, it actually comes in an all-wheel drive, and I don't know if that was important for you or not, but that way you get the Platinum appointments, which are unique to the Platinum model, and the twin-turbo V6, which is a sweet engine.
So is the XTS front or rear-wheel drive?
Front, or it's normally front-wheel drive, but it also comes in all-wheel drive.
Okay.
And that's what they did when they put the twin-turbo in, is they made it all-wheel drive. So it's all-wheel drive with the front-wheel drive bias with the twin-turbo setup. But you don't have to get the twin-turbo in order to get the Platinum, and the XTS Platinums are going to be hard to find because they didn't make as many of them.
Right.
So you'd have to look closer. But yeah, I would say go test an XTS or have her test an XTS. I was trying to think what else would be softer riding in the Cadillac range, and again maybe the SRX. I liked the SRX a lot more than I expected to when I tested one. I thought I'd test it and don't really care, but I really enjoyed it when I tested one. The SRX is the little crossover, or it's a mid-sized crossover.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I've never drove one.
Yeah, it's got an OLED screen for the dash, which is really sweet. And so once you get in it, now that they got the engine fixed, because it uses a 3.6 liter V6, so it's got plenty of power and good torque and so on. Now that they got the engine fixed, and it gets reasonable gas mileage, and so it's actually a nice combination. But it would ride softer than the CTSV, certainly. But I would say if you want a sedan, the XTS would be probably the soft ride of the bunch. And you'd want the Platinum, not the V Sport, if you just want ride. But because the V Sport's likely to have a little stiffer, a little more sporty pretensions than the suspension you actually want is the base suspension and the mid-level suspension, because it will be a little softer. Tires can make a big difference too.
My big problem is I want the high horsepower, and every time you do that, they make the suspension to match it, and that's not what I want.
Exactly. And hopefully with the CT6, they're talking about coming out with good horsepower with a luxury suspension, and so they'll probably tune that in the way you want, but you're going to have to write a big check for it.
Well, wait till it's plenty used.
Yeah. Wait 20 years down the line. Yeah.
Well, 5.
And that's kind of what I'm watching right now with my next car purchase, is to wait and see which one comes in line with what I want to pay, right? And so I've kind of set up a side account and set aside my car money until I can just figure out what I want to buy. But yeah, that's what I've been looking at is the CTSV. If I had to buy today, which I don't because my STSV is doing fine, I would get a CTSV Sport, or a CTSV, one or the other. You know, a 12 CTSV or a 14 CTSV Sport. But I want to wait and see if the ATSVs, if they make enough of them that I can get one of those a year in or 2 years in and get the price down closer to what I paid for the STSV. So I've used up an hour and a half of your time tonight. Less of Mike's time, but I'm glad we got you set. Now, Mike, now that you've got some of the learning out of the way, next week you should be able to log right in and your camera will work off the bat. Your mic will be set up. But what we do is, although the chat starts at 7:30 Central Time, we actually start the video and everything 15 minutes early, so that way you can log in and get the technical things out of the way. And then we usually keep everybody on a little bit after we hang up, after we stop the video, in order to cover any admin or any things you'd want to say off air instead of on air. Cadillac Jim, any last thoughts for our viewers tonight?
No, you know, you really got me thinking about that V12 Cadillac, though. If they do something like they did with the CN, you know, gull wing doors, 2+2 or two-seater, an exotic car, and they don't worry about the price being $120K to start, well, then I think that they might have something that, if they commit to, like Honda did with that, what was that, NSX, and they just hand build the damn things if they have to, charge what they have to break even on them, and just keep it as a special edition. Exactly. Well, what the Veyron has done worlds for Audi. A lot of people never heard of Audi before that Veyron, that 300-mile-an-hour car came out. Well, how many did they make? Maybe 50 over what, 4 years?
And Mercedes makes specials like that, right?
Yeah.
The SL line is a very expensive, very low quantity special, but that helps sell the rest of the cars because people come in to look at that car and then buy, you know, a CTSV instead.
Oh yeah, they can put that thing on a roving tour, and they can draw droves of people that never go to a Cadillac dealer just to come. They'd come life, they'd end up thinking, you know, and they might end up driving something they should have been driving for years and didn't know about.
Mike, anything else you wanted to share with our viewers before we wrap up?
No, I'd sure be interested in checking out one of them V12s like that, though. If they ever made it.
Oh, and Cadillac was famous, of course, for having a V16 engine and a V12 engine. And my personal preference would be a twin turbo V12, and then if that does well, go ahead with the twin turbo V16, just to say that they did. But certainly, if the 4.5 liter V8 is where we're expecting it, which is 450 to 500 horsepower, then they don't need a V12 or they don't need a V16. But when you're talking about passion, the logic doesn't apply, right?
Right. And I would prefer to see a twin supercharged V12
instead of a turbo.
We just need to buy the new one.
I'm just kidding. I don't care how they supercharge it.
That's it. Yeah, everybody. This is the action item for everybody: is go buy a new Cadillac between now and next week, because Cadillac needs to get their sales up to keep paying for these bespoke engines.
Yes,
so if you haven't bought a Cadillac lately, go get you one, so that they have the money to spend on new Cadillacs. Okay, guys, hold on. I'm going to hit stop broadcast. What you'll see is the broadcast will say we have stopped, but you'll still be on the video, so don't hang up yet. And we'll have a moment offline before we ring off. Thank you for watching. This was the Caddy Info Cadillac Conversations. We do these on Thursday nights. We actually put all the texts, the stories that we were talking about on the Caddy Info forum, CADDYINFO. If you go to caddyinfo.com and then you click on the forums, you can find the forums. And we put this discussion in the general discussion forum, and you can find stories that we discuss or mention in the video there on the forum. And so hold on, guys. We do these Thursday nights. If you want to participate, circle me on Google Plus, and just as we did with Mike tonight, we'll figure out how to get you educated and wired in and participate. If you want to participate but you don't have a headphone and a mic, that's okay. There's a way for you to log in and just do text, or you can actually just ask us questions, and we can mark it when we're answering your questions. Okay, hold on, guys. Go ahead.
If you come in early to do your connecting and your experimenting, well, then you can do it without being exposed to 8 billion people on the internet.
Yeah, and without us using hand motions.
Yeah, it's more fun.
Although that's not a promise.